Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing The Man from U.N.C.L.E, directed by Guy Ritchie, Roadrunner by Morgan Neville, and newly released The Tomorrow War by Chris McKay, The Green Knight by David Lowery, and Black Widow, directed by Kate Shortland. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Mr. Vincent Daly, how's it going?
Tommy boy, how's it going?
It's going okay, buddy. How was your week of movies?
Doing good. Yeah, I've really been fitting in a lot of new movies that have either been available from HBO Max or have been in theaters, and I've been able to get to them. Excited to talk about a lot of these, and excited to have so many new releases in the ammo belt to talk about. So it should be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get started right away.
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
like a plan.
And let's do The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E, Guy Ritchie. We recently reviewed Wrath of Man, which was his new release, and actually unintentionally went back to this film just because I was craving some sort of spy film. I also wanted to watch something spy-oriented, of course, with Black Widow being in this selection for what we have today to review. But really impressed with this film. This is honestly... I was super pleased with this because I would very confidently say this is the best time you can have with a spy movie outside of the Bond franchise.
Wow.
Yeah. It is front to back a blast to watch. The performances that we have with both of our main characters are huge. It is a fun time watching them compete over the plot and have this kind of duplicity element to the gadgets that they employ, the type of spy tactics, the different tactics that they have.
Yeah.
It is a fun time and a really fun film.
Could you compare it to anything else outside the Bond franchise? Like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was super slow. And
definitely not on that level. And it more so a fun blockbuster of a spy film. It's not going for super realism or it's not going for anything but a very flashy, fun.
Much like a Bond.
Exactly.
It has some sort of grittiness or realism to it a bit, but
Yeah.
it's performative. It's very...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is, of course, based off of the old 60s, 70s show, Man from U.N.C.L.E. I have no experience with that show just because I watched some old television, but that's just one, like the original Mission Impossible, for instance, just something that I never experienced.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I think that is probably one of the best elements coming into this film. I can, really assure any audience member that has not seen this film, there is no homework required going into this, knowing anything about the original show or anything like that, which I thought was really refreshing.
It's like flat out, it's a good time.
Exactly, yeah. There's no kind of watching or watch list that you need to go into this, which is great because this film really is at its best, probably something that, if you're watching with a group of people, you can kind of throw on and root for a side, root for, one side of the protagonist or the other, and really enjoy some very witty, charming performances.
Okay.
We have Henry Cavill on one side, and the other...
Armie Hammer. So, enjoy it. Enjoy him while he's in movies.
While he's still around.
It's 2015, so nobody,
Right.
nobody knew yet.
Yeah, absolutely. But the performances are really top notch. Both of these characters are awesome to see on screen, and it's not so much of a difference between how their side of this 70s type of Iron Curtain, one's east, one's west, one's, democratic, one's communist. The difference is in how they approach situations and how these characters problem solve, and most importantly, how these actors are performing as well, is really entertaining to watch. It hits a sweet spot, and I have to give full credit to Guy Ritchie on this one. It is a entertaining film. Absolutely.
Okay.
Really a ball of a time.
It's on my list to watch for sure.
Absolutely.
I love when it comes to spy.
Absolutely.
Anything really.
Yeah. I think as far as why this originally landed on my radar is I heard it was a very gadget-oriented film. I can even say that
It did get good reviews from, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
It was well received.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the type of gadgets in the film are of the age. They're not getting into the wacky, maybe Pierce Brosnan type of Bond gadgets.
Good.
So it hits a sweet spot there, and really is, I think, a love letter to that original show, even though I don't really have an appreciation for some of the maybe more fan service-y moments of it.
I'm sure there's some Easter eggs in there, things like that. Yeah,
absolutely. It was so enjoyable to watch, and so snappy, and really the best of what Guy Ritchie has to put out. I think another big highlight for me is the opening sequence of how these characters are introduced. Not to call back to a previous episode, in case any audience members haven't listened to the Wrath of Man review, but Guy Ritchie once again is a master at introducing the elements of the plot in a very creative way and not at all cookie cutter. There's a lot of care put into the first quarter of this film, and catching you up to speed on the world, catching you up to speed on these characters. Yeah,
it's done differently. It's not just It's not just here are your characters.
Exactly.
And he does it in a kind of a unique way.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
cool.
It was a really good time for that reason. I would say the only other thing that I would want to note is that as far as some of the action in the film, I was hoping for... It's not that the action sequences are bad. I just think that for me, the best when these characters are on screen interacting with each other, and too often I think the film splits off and tries to give them a little bit of solo time here, solo time there.
You want them together.
Exactly.
That's where the magic... That's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. The ensemble cast is where the sweet spot is for this. And that's really the only criticism I would have, other than it being a movie that understands what it is. It's supposed to be a snappy, fun spy film. It's not really going for anything intellectually, massive or anything like that.
It is what it's supposed to be. Exactly. And it does a good job at it.
Exactly. But for that reason, a really positive reception from me, and definitely for the purpose of the ratings, making sure that this is on your radar and deserves to be. We're going to go ahead and give The Man from U.N.C.L.E. a 75.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it's on my list, and this is only, I will put it kind of something I should watch sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and honestly, I
forgot about it, honestly, and then just hearing about it now, it's just like, oh, yeah. Like,
right.
I want to watch that.
Absolutely. I think it's also a great group watch, too, if you're ever with a good amount of people or something. You need to put something on.
It's fun. It's not all that complicated, I'm sure. Everyone can kind of follow along.
Yeah. And really, the performances are top-notch for that reason, too. We can go ahead and move on. What's up next on the docket, Tom?
So the next is we're going to do Roadrunner.
Roadrunner. Okay. So Roadrunner is the Anthony Bourdain documentary. This is done by the same director as the Mr. Rogers documentary. Hello, my neighbor?
Yeah,
something
like that.
I was...
You had the documentary that came out, and then you had the Tom Hanks one come out, too.
Yeah, this is the documentary side.
Right.
Which I was a very big fan for, despite not remembering the name. I was a huge fan of
you enjoyed that.
So I was excited to see this film. Of course, if you are a fan or a follower of Anthony Bourdain, I think this will be on your radar as well for that reason. And I think, especially for the fans of Bourdain, this this film has a surprising amount of ammo to collect from. Anthony Bourdain, much like the most documentaries that kind of surprise me, the amount of work that is done to catalog and archive previous voice recordings.
They go deep with
Very
everything
deep
with everything he was involved with. They went deep to get anything they could, basically.
Exactly.
And or anything that would add more depth to him.
Absolutely.
Deep, yeah.
I believe this is connected to CNN Films, so it is related to Parts Unknown, his second main show.
So they had complete access to everything with that.
Absolutely.
Behind the scenes, production stuff.
It obviously grabs from the main show, and there's also voice recordings of, I guess Bourdain did these voice recordings prior to the show, and that's where kind of some of the style came from. These like audio journal entries.
Like way early?
Yeah,
because
way
the book,
early.
I thought it was just off the book.
It could be related to like the interview segments for Kitchen Confidential.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Main point of what I want to get across is I think for the fans of Anthony Bourdain, there's a surprising amount here that you probably have never heard and gives the film a really snappy briskness to it.
Well, it has an extra
enjoyable.
importance to it because it maybe when people think that they know everything there is to know about him, or have watched him long enough. Well, you and I are huge fans.
Absolutely.
Saw him live.
Yep. They show the performance, obviously not where we went to see him, but
right.
they show that tour.
I'm glad they took some of that.
Yeah.
Because I remember him doing interviews and talking about that, how much he really enjoyed it, and how much he was like freaked out and scared the biggest butterflies, even though he had all this credit to his name. When he started doing the live tours, he was just back to square one almost. It was a completely different platform for him.
Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad they touch on that. But basically what I was saying is it's the way you're talking about it, it's just when you thought you knew everything about him or something. It's nice that there's things in there that you can go back to and learn new things about him.
Absolutely.
Probably love him even more, honestly.
Absolutely, yeah. The film actually does do a good job. I mean, not that I was even super aware, but I guess he had kind of some controversial streaks or media type of showings that were, I guess, in poor taste of some sort. That's certainly how the documentary kind of portrays it as well. Towards the end of his life, and I'm glad that they showed kind of a balance because it is a love letter through and through to Bourdain, and I don't think a documentary like that really needs to dig up anything dicey or anything that is not a love letter to clearly a very revered personality in television and cooking. But it was good to see that it was a balanced approach, and if anything, I'll relate it to the Mr. Rogers documentary where it was all just sunshine and daisies, emotionally heavy stuff, but really, Mr. Rogers being bulletproof. It was good to see that the director could do a balancing act to Bourdain, who does have a checkered past and does have, kind of an interesting career.
So did Morgan Neville, the director, ever at all cross paths? Is there any reason why he picked it up otherwise than just being a very good director, especially at documentaries? Or did he have, past run-ins with Anthony Bourdain? Did they work together on anything else? Was he in it at all and telling his story of Anthony Bourdain or no?
Not that I remember. There's obviously a lot of people speaking, both industry friends of Anthony Bourdain. So, I mean, he could have maybe appeared on screen and me not to notice it, but not from what
So
I
it's really just him coming from a great director, especially with documentaries, and just making a great piece.
Absolutely.
For him.
And I think probably, not to business it up, but probably owning the license in some way through CNN.
Of course, yeah.
Just to stick on the highlights of this film as well, a documentary for me is kind of hard to criticize because it's depending on, more so the factors of how well the filmmaking is, how engaging beat per beat it ties into how the story is being unfolded or what they're trying to tell. I think the editing for that reason is a very big highlight of this.
Okay.
I think the editing, whether it's just a really good team behind it, they know when to pluck the heartstrings, they know when to layer certain things in, and once again, I think that is representative of what this director does all the way through on his other works as well. For a big emotional conclusion, and of course, obviously the subject matter of Anthony Bourdain is that of suicide, it ends very heavy, but they do a good job at pretty much all the way through, especially for some of the lows in Anthony Bourdain's life that the film touches upon. It does a great job at still representing what we all love Bourdain for, which was kind of this rock and roll mentality, this rebel and this renegade. And I think for that reason, it ends a little bit too much with a bow on top for me, especially given the subject matter is what it is. But I think overall it was a really good time for me to watch and to understand a lot more about how Anthony Bourdain got into this career of being an entertainer in this way, and more than anything, how he established his voice to be so iconic and so unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a sea of food criticism and food entertainment.
Especially he was in it when it started to blow up, when Food Network started to blow up, when Travel Channel too.
Absolutely. The film very much touches upon, when he's, in the aftermath of Kitchen Confidential, his main book, that he doesn't want to succumb to that. So him finding his own voice and finding his own way.
And he totally had his own way.
Absolutely.
I mean, that he was a poet on his own in a weird way, in a weird Anthony Bourdain way.
Yep.
And it transferred through when we saw him live as well, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, so a good time. Roadrunner, though, I think more so for me than anything, when it comes to a documentary, I don't want to get into fractional scores unless it really has me on a knife's edge. We're going to go ahead and give Roadrunner a 70 on the dot. Definitely worth your time.
Oh, okay. Thought maybe it would be a little bit higher, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to give it higher than that, because is it something that I would say maybe bridges the gap for a non-Anthony Bourdain watcher to view? I don't think it makes that jump. Where, not to really overemphasize this Mr. Rogers documentary, I think that was something that universally almost everyone should walk, if you're even a relative fan of documentaries.
Right.
So
that's a good way to look at it.
Absolutely.
All right, so that came out relatively recently, but we're going to jump into really kind of our new releases. First, we want to just kind of stop and, do our little producer segment here, which, if you're familiar with the past episodes, what, hopefully we're starting to
pick up steam.
Yeah, build up the idea of it and everything like that. So it's the producer segment, and this is when we want to stop and thank the producers, which we look at you as the producers, not listeners. And basically, Vin and I, we don't want to be a part of big corporate sponsors or anything like that. We kind of want to just do our own thing. And if you guys like it, if you could give us a little bit, give a kickback to us, kind of give some donations to us, because it's not doesn't cost a lot of money to do this, but it does take time and a little bit of funds. And we want to kind of build this out. We want to grow it and really kind of build up our catalog and expand this to, a few other different things as well. So if you like listening to the podcast, if you like going to our website, thedailyratings.com, and checking out movies before you watch them, or you just want to go through our vast catalog of stuff that we already have, if you could just become a producer and donate to us. You can go to thedailyratings.com, go to you can go to the donations tab. It can be a small amount, larger. You can do a reoccurring if you'd like. And we really appreciate it. You can send in a note along with it, and we'll read it on air. And whether, you could say how much you disagree with Vin, you can say how much you're enjoying it, or,
crucify me,
Yeah, movie suggestions, whatever. And if you're giving us money, we're going to read it. So if there's one thing you want your negative comment to come through, attach some bucks to it, and no worries.
I like that.
But again, we do want to turn this into something. It is quite a decent amount of time. It is some money. And, if you find yourself valuing it, it's the value for value model. Did you find value in the podcast, in the website? If you could, donate to us and give us something back, we would really, really appreciate it. Yeah, there's not much more to say to that. So thanks a lot. All right, so let's go on now. This is when we do our new releases. And Vin, let's start with newly released The Tomorrow War, Amazon original.
Yes. Oh, boy. Okay. All right. I didn't know which one of these we were doing sequentially, but The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt. Yeah, wow. Is this a bad movie? I mean, not that there's much of a boundary in watching an Amazon Prime, free on Prime movie. Plenty of people have that, but very, very cut to the chase. This film is just very simply not even worth an ounce of your time. The film is a sci-fi, action, horror comedy.
It's supposed to be a comedy or no? Like The Martian wasn't supposed to be a comedy from Ridley Scott. Turned out to be a bit of a comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that actually really does hit the nail on the head. You know, there's
not
more
supposed
so
to be
just
comedy,
like
but it's that bad.
Marvel jokes inside this sci-fi horror action film. It's very bad for something that deals with time travel as the premise of the film. I mean, we are up against films like Avengers Endgame that are very loosey-goosey with time travel. This is all the more loosey-goosey with time travel. So definitely, if you're in it for, I want to, kind of see a thoughtful time travel kind of blockbuster movie. Nothing there for you.
Even the trailer was bad. I mean, I'm sorry if people liked it and are listening to this, but the trailer looked horrible. I have no interest in one. I can't wait to hear the number.
Absolutely. It definitely is another entry in why Chris Pratt. Why are we choosing him as the main lead? I don't understand.
He doesn't fit in it?
No, I don't really get much confidence from him tasked with this.
It is a bit of a different. I mean, he buffed up for the one movie.
For the Jurassic Park movies, right? That was his main buff up.
No, before that, when he started getting more from Parks and Rec, it was the war movie. Is it the killing of Osama bin Laden?
Oh, that's right. Was
Zero Dark 30?
No. It was 13 Hours, something like that?
No, that was Jim from The Office. That was John Krasinski. I think Zero Dark 30 he played a role in.
What are with these comedians bridging into war movies?
We're going to have to review them because we don't even know anything about them, apparently.
It's rough.
But Chris Pratt.
Yeah, Chris Pratt, good. Marvel jokiness in the middle of this film that has, honestly, really terrifying stakes.
It's based on a book, I believe, correct?
I think
it's based on a pretty popular book.
Yeah, I believe so. It's just like the oddest mix of sci-fi action, really kind of horrifying stakes when especially you're introduced to how they get into the future. There was a moment there where I was like, wow, that's really compelling. Like, I'm actually kind of invested now. And then there's just immediately
they crush
a Marvel kitsch joke after it. And it's just
like they took you right out of it.
It's just the worst possible. CGI monsters, kind of cool. This also landed on my radar because Ken Bartholomew, he is a visual designer that I follow. He designed what the aliens are. They're called white spikes, I think, or something like that. Cool design, obviously designed to be very deadly, said to be very deadly. This film has the most plot armor I've ever seen, I think, in a film. We have these monsters destroying possibly multiple platoons of soldiers, but Chris Pratt and his happy band of jokesters make it along just fine. And when one of them wants to, throw themselves on the sword to save the rest, they can do that too, and there's just no consequence. There's just not.
Okay, well, is J.K. Simmons a silver lining?
No, he is. He is in it for such a surprising little amount. I mean, I like J.K. Simmons. He was getting a check. You know what I mean?
Okay, is that with that?
Listen, man.
Amazon spent a ton of money on this.
A ton. And
was the production almost $200 million, something around that?
It was up there, and does a lot of site hopping, and you can tell it went into a lot of extras and
CGI. I'm sure, right?
Absolutely.
CGI must have been out
absolutely. And again, I mean, the CGI isn't bad. The scenes, the sequences, the set pieces, all interesting, but are you ruined unanimously by the performances and the script of this?
And writing? Because for me, CGI ruins a movie. I am an anti-CGI guy for the most part. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's that's...
You want CGI when you can't notice it. That's
just
the
do
dance.
It well. Yeah, it's just... And the thing is, it's still really expensive,
Mm-hmm.
where it's almost like on par with, you go back to the Lord of the Rings and how well the Lord of the Rings can still keep up, even though it's like early CGI, but it's not all CGI. You have those large sets. As far as cost go, it's around the same.
Yeah.
Just that's how much like modern day CGI is, and it keeps getting better. And keeps just the price is just still always expensive.
Yeah.
And I just miss sets and real things. And costume design and actual costumes, not computer costumes. It's just that would take me out. I doubt the CGI was good in this thing.
It's more so the visual design, and if anything, I have kind of some horse blinders on me because I obviously like the guy that designed the monsters themselves.
It's true, you can look past it a bit. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but really, if anything, I can't stress enough where this movie is cataclysmically bad is because they build things up so much. And they follow through on that for almost everyone but our main characters, and plot armor is the term that you will be saying almost out loud at every fight sequence, at every every conflict that is put in front of the characters, and it really does feel like a waste of time, and that's what really leads me.
Did it feel long too? I'm looking at it, so it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh my god! Oh,
were you just like this?
Just wait, and I need a series of why movies are above 2 hours long anymore. You know what I mean? Space Jam, it's coming, folks. Space Jam: New Legacy is 2 hours and 20.
What?
Why?
What?
Why? The original is like an hour and 20. Like it's it's unreal. But yeah, it honestly, that's where it comes to a rating this low is when it relates to, again, kind of to the watcher buyer guide of what we're designing this to be a tool for. It is a waste of time. And free or not, with your Amazon Prime subscription, should not be something
no,
you should
your time's not free.
Yeah, your time is definitely not free. And not for Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt's getting paid off your time.
I like Chris Pratt, too. I like the guy. Like everyone loves him. He's a lovable guy. It's just not surprising, though.
I know. But we are going to give
Go ahead.
The Tomorrow War an even 20.
Good. That's fine. And I didn't even see it, folks. Maybe I shouldn't comment so much. It looked like a clunker, and it is a clunker.
Yeah.
This is a clunker.
It's rough. It's rough stuff. Yeah, not worth your time.
I mean, it
hardly
sounds like they're
even
getting their
worth
money
like
back.
a joke watch. Honestly, I would rate it higher if it was like, all right, you can ironically like make fun of this or something.
But it's trying to be serious.
Yeah. No.
And just wow.
No go.
Well, okay. I'm not surprised, and that all makes a lot of sense. I don't know how they think they're going to make their money back.
I don't know either.
Because you spend, what, $200 million, something around $200 million.
Yeah.
You're not getting that much, like, who doesn't have Amazon Prime that says, oh, I have to get Amazon Prime now because I have to watch the Tomorrow War.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that all makes sense. Well, let's keep it going.
Okay.
Maybe things turn around here. Let's do the Green Knight.
The Green Knight. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. got some energy back. So the Green Knight is a A24, A20. I forget. Why can I remember the studio's name? A24, A23. Who have done, The Lighthouse, many different indie film productions. Recently, have had some more notoriety with movies like Uncut Gems that have pushed them into a little bit more stardom, a little bit more recognition.
Okay.
And The Green Knight is definitely continuing along that path. We have The Green Knight being actually a King Arthur, an Arthurian legend, and a dark telling of that. So watching this film, unless you understood that The Green Knight was a story in that lineage, you wouldn't know that one of the characters is King Arthur. Another is, I believe, like a Merlin or like one of his spellcasters in the story. Because a lot of these elements are deeply de-emphasized and almost, a la The Witcher, a very dark, gritty, medieval world they're going for. That is mixed with a lot of magical realism, and we basically have a story that we follow a lowly knight who is interacting with a curse and powers greater than his own. Mm-hmm. And honestly, even at the end, obviously no spoilers or anything like that, but we are not left with a lot of substance in the script itself. The storytelling here is much through environment, through cinematography, through feel. And that's where I would say, as an audience member, if you liked The Lighthouse, if you like these darker indie films that A24 is putting out, that is going to be right up your alley. I would say the visuals, both in cinematography, in CGI, I would honestly describe them as breathtaking in a lot of cases.
Really?
Yeah, just the absolute respect to color composition, where shot placements are, because you got to understand, there's not a lot of talking in this film at all.
So it's a lot on emotion.
There's a
lot of motion and scenery and everything like that.
You're left on this journey, much like exploring the countryside of this Arthurian world, like our main character, and it's something that you're kind of just left with a mood more than anything. And again, no spoilers to it, but the conclusion of this film is, going to be pretty open-ended for the artsiness that it goes for.
Okay.
But that's a good fit because, honestly, there is almost a conversation that happens after this, whether that's with yourself or who you may view this with, of what exactly the ending means and where did the film take you.
Yeah, those can totally work.
Yeah.
If done properly. Those are great.
Absolutely. I think for me, this film hits in that same spot that the second Blade Runner hit for me. Watching that movie at first, it didn't scratch all the itches that I wanted, but I knew it was a breathtaking film, and I knew that I really enjoyed what I watched. This hits almost in the exact same way because for me, there's not so much there to tear apart as far as the script or the continuity of the film. It's more so, what did the visuals make me feel, and what type of journey did the film take me on emotionally?
Is it anything? Could you make the comparison for a movie that I loved, which is The Revenant? Because there's such small writing involved, but there's so much emotion, and still following a story and scenery and everything like that. Is there anything like that?
I think so, especially when it comes to the surreal elements that The Revenant put in there. For me, it always sticks out, like the church scenes when Leo is coming across.
Sure, and just the fact there's such little talking as well, but it's a hugely emotionally impactful at the same time, because you're really going on a journey with the Green Knight. You're going on this journey with him.
Absolutely. And there's a lot there that, well, let me put it this way as well with The Revenant. This film is nowhere near the class of The Revenant. I mean, I think The Revenant is probably one of the best to achieve that type of visual storytelling. But
this is also didn't have the budget behind it and everything, like, you know what I mean?
Very true. Very true. For that reason, I think upon a first viewing, for any audience members out there, you may come walking away from this a little unsatisfied just because of its vagueness. I think this is, and again, I'll go back to my example with the second Blade Runner, a film that will appreciate over time. And I think The Green Knight is absolutely going to be a film that gets appreciated more and more over time as audience members, true fans of the film, can unpack the visual storytelling and what it really would mean in this Arthurian legend. But also, if the type of visuals are striking to you, something that you'll enjoy watching and kind of have a quiet moment with. Performances are strong. Our main guy, his name is eluding me.
Oh, it's he's actually been around a decent amount of things. Yeah. Well, he's starting to be a thing. Dev Patel.
Yes, Dev Patel, who has gotten a lot of recognition for the films he's been in. I think it's a strong performance, as are a lot of his co-stars. It's just more so, again, it's so de-emphasized. It's more so about the mood of what he's going through and this journey that he's going through. It's going to be something that I think is highly up to the interpretation in the audience of how much attention span you have to watch a film like this, and how much you get enveloped and involved in the dark fantasy of what they're putting out. For me, as a D&D nerd, I loved it for that reason.
Okay, yeah.
And I really got involved into trying to look for the deeper pieces and what they were doing, and or how a scene was set up and what it means for our characters. So, but with that said, honestly, there's not too much more more to talk about because I would be dipping more into the spoiler elements if I was to unpack the specific conflict that our character comes across. Yeah. So I think main thing here, if you are a fan of this studio, if you are a fan of maybe some the fantasy genre, and we haven't had really a major film in that category in a while, it's definitely worth a watch and give it your time. We're going to go ahead and give The Green Knight a 71.
71, very good, yeah.
Absolutely.
It was kind of off my radar, and yeah, I think I'm definitely interested in checking it out.
Yeah. Visual design-wise as well, really good stuff.
Different kind of movie overall, yeah. All right, very good. Well, we've got one more on the list here. Big old blockbuster. It's going to be Black Widow.
Black Widow. Yeah, and interesting that we've had some runway in having this unfold because, of course, we have Scarlett Johansson now suing Disney because of mishandling the license and putting it up on Disney Plus or the premium
at the same time, and it was supposed to be movies first because she's doing
I think it's just kind of interesting. Doesn't hurt or help the criticism of the film, but
it's all post stuff.
Exactly. I think it's interesting to have a messy breakup like that. But Black Widow, an interesting film that is, of course, 100% a Marvel film. We also have this film in the aftermath of what is going to be the Endgame saga, or what they're now marketing as the Infinity Stone saga. It is supposed to be happening within that. So it's interesting because we have dialed back stakes. I think that is the biggest highlight and will be definitely a theme in what I'm talking about here, that it's dialed back stakes. We're not dealing with a massive galactic scale villain. We're not dealing with...
Which makes sense because that kind of stuff, you save it for those big combination films. You have everybody on film together.
Absolutely.
This kind of makes sense then.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe it's just bad, and because there's less stakes, that means you care less, basically.
Maybe a little bit of both, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
There's definitely some give and take there. I think overall I enjoyed it being more dialed back because we can. We don't have to do, a shit ton of homework just to enter into this film and understand what's going on.
There has been a lot.
Or that even be a burden on the film to try to explain to audience members that haven't maybe done
going
the
to huge backstories. I mean, there's how many films now, all with their little kind of Easter eggs or storylines that all connect somehow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when it relates to something practical, again, no massive CGI villain. It was a lot of good fight choreography.
That's good.
There was a lot of highlight there. I would say once again, as I mentioned with our first film, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I saw this film and I said I kind of want to scratch this itch of a spy film that's not a superhero spy film. And that's what led me to watch that film and kind of have it paired in this set of films that we're reviewing today. It is a very Bond-style film, especially in the scene hopping that it does. Very jet set. So
that was in the back of your head? Like, this is kind of Bondy?
I think so. I mean, Bondy in the sense that... what the Daniel Craig Bond films are, they are going around to very high...
There's a lot of scene hopping. Inspector alone, it's the most scene hopping they ever did. Most locations ever shot at and everything like that.
And I think that translates to a style of jet set, of luxury, of espionage. I think that's part of the window dressings for that.
So was it done well, or was it like, yes, Jesus, another location?
I think it is done well. There are definitely Marvel films that have done it more poorly and have compacted the scene.
They were putting a lot. They really wanted this to do well. Scarlett Johansson in her own movie now,
absolutely. Well, I think you've been reading my mind today because let's talk about Scarlett, and that's the next bullet point. Scarlett is a confusing performance.
Well, we've seen her so many times in this position, though,
right?
With this character and world,
and you think there would be some comfortability, but I honestly, if I had to criticize the acting alone, Scarlett seems like she's uncomfortable in the skin of this character now. There is... exactly.
It's the last thing you would think.
It's confusing, for sure. I would say Scarlett, in a lot of cases, is probably the worst part of the film. And that's terrible to say, because it's her
The
film.
one thing is, the writing can be bad, but she's great.
Right.
That's hilarious.
There is, I'll put less of an emphasis on this and focus on what I want to talk about in a second with Scarlett. But again, there is a lack of confidence, it feels like. If I really had to put my nerd hat on, sequentially in the story, she hasn't gone through the major, messed up beats that maybe have changed the character later on in this saga.
Okay.
So it really didn't make sense, the type of direction she was going with the character. Very punished, very conserved, which was weird. But more than anything, let's honestly put that on the back burner, that type of criticism of the acting. She is completely outshined by the rest of the cast. The rest of the family is phenomenal. Florence Pugh, who was, of course, in Midsummer, and it plays her sister in this, is amazing. I love every single moment she's on screen. She's funny. It's not like bad, cringy funny in a Marvel way either. Like, it is genuinely...
Right, it's not like slapstick or...
Yeah,
right.
It's great. She's almost like making fun of Marvel in the jokes of the film. It's fantastic. We have Hopper.
David Harbour.
Yeah. Oh, how am I forgetting?
Rachel Weisz?
No.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, either way, she is... this minor criticism that I have of Scarlett, that she feels energyless. Let me condense it there. Yeah, she feels energyless in the...
Supposed to be the exact opposite.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
She feels exhausted in the performance. It is accentuated by the phenomenal job everyone else is doing, which is just terrible. Honestly, my last point here, it left me asking why they bothered making this film. Why are we...
Was the action good? Like, I have to say, it's just like, the stakes were less, so we didn't have, like, the world ending, of course. We didn't have crazy things happening. It was kind of like normal bad guy. Mm-hmm. I would look upon Marvel movies better if I started seeing, again, normal bad guy stuff. It's just, you get tired of watching action hero movie after movie where the world is collapsing. Mm-hmm. It's like, and what city are we going to pick this time to destroy and like save the earth? Like,
right. And
was it reward? Like, no, it's just didn't even matter.
I mean, it was rewarding in the sense that the action. I do think the action and the set pieces were both flashy, and the choreography was good. But at the same time, I mean, I can't give it too much credit in that regard because
it was just cookie cutter Marvel.
Yes, exactly. And then I think a lot of viewers are self-aware now of the type of very particular kung fu action that Marvel films are.
It's not particularly exciting,
right? And this did not break the mold because Black Widow is one of those. I mean, that's her power. She's
kick ass, and
exactly. The main villain as well of the superhero villain is Taskmaster, who specializes in understanding like the kung fu side, the superheroes that are in.
So had they maybe had a better fight choreographer, they could have done like. The fight scenes could have actually been something like when you watch like good gung fu that's done really well. Mm-hmm. It just becomes amazing to watch, and you're mesmerized by it. You watch like a John Wick or what's one of the original gung fu ones? Not the
like
Tower.
The Raid.
Right, the Raid, and it's just like. If these guys have been doing a lot of hand-to-hand combat, if you actually make it cool, it really can change a movie around.
Absolutely.
And it's just cookie-cutter Marvel. Who wants that?
Absolutely.
It's like been there and done that on 30 different other films.
A perfect point because it encapsulates that feeling of why did we need this? That's not just a judgment of like the story or why are we dusting out Scarlett Johansson
Well, you
again.
needed a lead female in a big-time blockbuster Marvel movie.
Right, yeah. So it just, on so many levels, it was like, this was fluff. This was absolute filler, no killer. It is a shame because, I'm not saying that I ever want a movie to be overtly bad, but to, for Scarlett to put this many years into...
And she deserves that role.
Absolutely.
Like, again, there was a big push to get a lead female film, and she was... Why would you not give it to her?
Yeah.
She's very well developed in the world already with her character. Yeah. We've seen her on so many different films. Mm-hmm. It's just a shame that this one she decided to lack confidence in her own.
Exactly. But I think besides the shitting on this film, there are highlights in set pieces, in the set jumping, the jet set side of it. It being a spy film, and again, the supporting cast is truly phenomenal. Florence Pugh, seriously, eyes on her because she is She's shown that she's done horror. She's been in kind of Oscar baity films, period pieces. And now breaking into this action, she's the best part about the film and really entertaining for that reason. So, but that's honestly, there's not much more I can talk about. And if anything, talking about it would be just trying to give some kudos to balance out what is overall a very mediocre experience, a very almost perfectly middle-of-the-road Marvel experience. So we're going to go ahead and give Black Widow a 59.
59. That all sounds right.
Yeah.
59 totally makes sense. And maybe we are being harsh. Maybe we aren't Marvel I mean, there is a huge community of Marvel fans out there, especially like younger kids who might actually just like been dying to see this and really love it. But yeah, I think that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So if you can judge it off of that kind of.
And I think as well as the practicality of this, if you are an existing Marvel fan, you're probably watching this one way or another anyway. You know what I mean? Just to keep up with the continuity.
Oh, absolutely.
Make sure that there's not an after credits scene that's going to change the fabric of what next movies are going to happen and when, what's going to happen.
And there's always little things in there that it's a continuation of this world, basically, or another story in this world, and people just love being a part of that. But 59, I think that sounds about right.
Right.
Especially, yeah. All right, Vin, is there anything else you would like to add, or we roll credits?
No, we are good to go. We can wrap this up.
All right, well, let's just do a quick recap here, folks. We've got The Man from U.N.C.L.E. by Guy Ritchie at 75%. We have Roadrunner, directed by Morgan Neville, with 70%. The Tomorrow War, 20%. The Green Knight by David Lowery with 71%. Black Widow at 59%. All right, folks, we appreciate you listening. You producers, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or tell a friend about us. If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, or if you'd just like to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer. Go to the Donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel that you receive from our product. You'll get a mention on the next podcast episode, too. We're looking to build this into something large and great, but also be independent from those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.